This vehicle's paint is like sandpaper.
Hi, I'm Ivan.
I'm Nick.
This is DIY Detail. This vehicle was brought to us by our friends at the Baxter Auto Group here in Omaha, Nebraska. It was on their lot and it got tree sap on it everywhere. And they're like little miniature drops of tree sap. You can see them here. It's amazing. It feels like sandpaper, it looks like sandpaper. We need to get that off.
Well, Ivan, I want to interject.
Yeah.
Folks may think, well, DIY Detail has a tree sap remover. Surely that's the move in this case.
Well, you always want to wash before using the tree sap remover because we don't want to get any dirt ground into the surface. And our Rinseless wash is quite a good cleaner to begin with. Sometimes when the sap is fresh, that's all you need. And that might be all we need on this.
So maybe we should do it, show what we're doing, and explain what we're seeing step by step along the way.
Right. And we'll do one just little corner just to show you just how effective, or maybe not, the Rinseless wash is. Let's, Nick, if you want to spray just a little bit on the hood. Let's get a close up before.
So I'm going to start with Rinseless wash diluted 256:1. That's 1 ounce per gallon. That's 4 milliliters per liter. We're getting Rinseless wash on the surface, and that's probably way more than we need.
Yeah, Rinseless wash on the surface, and as Nick said, it's a little more than what we need. We'll let it dwell for a moment or two, and we can see exactly where every one of these little tree sap drops are. It's just holding on to it. Now, we take our legacy sponge. We lightly go over the surface, and we can hear the contamination on this vehicle, and we can see it there.
Is this safe, Ivan? I thought we were gonna use a hose.
Well, it is safe, Nick. And then go over the second side of the sponge.
Whew. That sounded rough, Ivan.
Yeah, and then our drying towel.
So kind of the classic Rinseless wash.
Yeah. And now the surface is still contaminated, but that tree sap is gone.
Just like that?
Yep.
The power of effective chemicals and good process.
Right, now, you see how difficult it is to dry? That's because of that contamination. Contamination slows down the drying process.
That's one thing I've really learned. I always learn stuff in our filming sessions, Ivan, and the power of a proper decon brightens paint, but it also makes it easier to dry.
Right.
And so there's just like a lot of reasons why you'd want to decontaminate paint. I'm guessing that's what we're doing here today. If I were a guessing man, if I could see the future, I'll bet we're gonna use our decontamination towel, Ivan.
We will be using the quad flow towel, and we'll be using NV ceramic sealant to give it a little more brightness, a little more lubrication, and the next time the tree sap gets on this, it'll rinse away with water. This vehicle definitely needs decontamination. Even the Rinseless, it wasn't beating on it. So, Nick, let's spray the Rinseless on. Let's get this party started.
Okay.
You've got your keg over there. I've got my little weed sprayer. They both end up doing the same thing, and that is putting Rinseless on the surface. You don't need to buy fancy tools. The simplest of tools will work.
So your garden sprayer is an example of that. This keg is just fun to have.
It is. It is a good tool. For the professional, it's worth the investment. For the home hobbyist, though,
A little overkill?
this little garden sprayer does a great job.
Yeah. I always over-apply in the first Rinseless application, Ivan.
Yep.
What is your strategy for applying the Rinseless? I'm always trying to get into emblems and try to use this as the pressure washer and get in here and get in there. And I just feel like you make it look so easy.
Because it is easy, Nick. I'm just trying to get it on the surface. We're
trying to
using
get
a
it-
pressure washer anyways. You don't need to use that as a pressure washer.
I can't help myself.
But if I were you, I'd get rid of those leaves, though, in the corner.
See, I may have tried to use the keg to get the leaves out. So you do this first, you wouldn't want the pressure washer to do this, you do this by hand.
Right, and you can see where we washed and where we haven't. The difference is striking. And speaking of pressure washer, let me get the pressure washer here, Nick. Do you need a pressure washer? No. Do you want one? Of course. And the reason we use a pressure washer here more than anything else is to keep the level of moisture down in the shop. More water, more moisture. Pressure washer puts out a lot less water than a hose does.
Rinseless wash is as good a pre-treat as Incredible Suds?
Yes, So we call it a rinseless wash. They're 2 words, not one. And with the rinseless wash, we put this on the surface, it's breaking down all that dirt and that tree sap. We're gonna rinse it away and then do the contact wash.
Look at the water behavior on the hood where you actually wash, that's all. And, and there's just a difference in water behavior.
Yeah, definitely there will be a difference. Cleaning a car amazingly makes it perform better. I don't know why.
Who knew?
Nick, time to apply more Rinseless.
All right, that's easy. So that's the chemical rinse chemical method that we've so famously spoken of. I'm just kind of being facetious here. Obviously, we did not invent the foam rinse foam or the chemical rinse chemical, but it's a nice method, right? You put the chemical on, you rinse it off. Why do we do that and then rinse it off? Why is that the safest way to wash a vehicle, Ivan?
It's the safest way because we have lubrication. The better lubricated the surface is, the better it is.
So the first step was about breaking down what was on there and getting it off before we touch it with our contact media, even though we did that demo at the beginning. And then the second step is just lubrication?
Lubrication, and it's still breaking down any remaining dirt on the surface, that traffic film. What is gritty, what is, big chunks have been taken care of. Now we just need this. You got your legacy sponge on the verge of dripping.
Oh, mine might not be dripping at all. Is that too dry?
No, that's good.
It still feels like it's got stuff in there.
Right, there's a lot of rinseless wash on the surface because of all that contamination. Now, there's so much contamination and dirt on the surface, even though it looked clean. Look at the surface of the sponge. I'm gonna go back over the same section a second time.
Okay, so that's when you'll use 2 sides of the sponge on just one panel?
Right, so if you start with the red side, you can see, and if you see that it's very dirty, flip the sponge, use it again.
So I'm feeling like a trademarked move here is about to happen. Should they always start with the red side to evaluate their panel and then from there use black? Could that be a standard operating procedure for folks out there?
If you need to evaluate, yes. Now, if it's your own car that you wash every week and you know how it is, not a big deal. If you're a professional detailer, then it can become a big deal. Nick, not all sponges are created equal as well.
Tell me more.
Well, ours are made in the US from high quality foam, and they're actually engineered to do this. We didn't just take a foam that, oh, this one looks cool and feels soft. Soft is actually not good. You don't want a super soft sponge because then you have more chances of actually putting pressure on the sponge because you think it's not doing anything.
That's a good point.
Also, a soft sponge won't last as long and definitely will not perform as well.
And you just gotta dip it back in the bucket for it to clean itself? I mean, talk about that.
Well, that's a combination of how the sponge works and the rinseless wash. So the rinseless wash is designed for that, and so is the sponge. What's happening is the sponge grabs the dirt off the vehicle. Once it's grabbed it off the vehicle, we bring it back to the bucket. When we dunk it in the bucket, we have now an excess of fluid. When it has an excess of fluid, it wants to release it. That's why we use it on the verge of dripping and not soaking wet out of the bucket. Yeah, definitely a double pass sort of car. The dirt is stuck on to the paint with that tree sap, so that's why we're having to.
So often people want to just pull out the sledgehammer and it's important to use the least aggressive method first.
Right.
It's not just with polishing, that's with washing, obviously. If folks out there don't have all the technology, but they have tree sap and they bought tree sap remover on DIYdetail.com, how do they use tree sap remover then if they're not going to use it on a tree sap car?
Well, make sure that it's perfectly clean to begin with. And then if you have tree sap remaining, that's when you use it. And simple to use, spray it on a towel, not on the surface, and work it in with the towel, and then flip the towel and dry. And you may need a couple applications to get through the tree sap, the adhesive, tar, it does all of those things.
Sometimes we do very expensive sports cars, sometimes we do base level Subarus. I think it's important to show the variety, but also just to remind folks, our products are so good that they can work on any vehicle out there. And so it's like the spectrum of these videos should show you kind of how we think when we deal with different vehicles and different situations. We can't encapsulate everything we know into one video, Ivan.
No.
But the YouTube library is there for you. And so if you're finding value in these videos, please subscribe to the channel. It's a free way to say thank you. And we thank you just by saying that right now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. We really appreciate it.
And now it's cleaned, it's washed. Now it's cleaned and washed. I missed the mirror. Now it's cleaned and washed. Next, we said we were gonna wash, clay, and seal. We'll be using NV ceramic sealant for that part and our quad fold decontamination towel.
You threw a lot of terms at me, Ivan. If I've never heard of any of these, please explain.
Yeah. So let me find our NV. There we go. So NV ceramic sealant is designed as a sealant, just as the name implies. Our quad fold decontamination towel, you'll notice it's got a nice hand-sized, face that we work with. It's nice and wet out of the bucket, and it has actually 4 different faces or quadrants, hence quad fold. So when you get it, it looks like this. You don't want to use it flat on the surface. These 4 surfaces are your decontamination surfaces. This is a polymer matrix that is bonded to this microfiber towel. When we're using it, we want to fold the towel in 4. The fact that there's no polymer matrix there makes it super easy to fold. And then
real quick,
Yeah.
interrupting. The reason we designed this, one of the reasons is we would teach it a certain way, folding our towel, and then we go on the internet and we see people going like this.
Yeah.
Because it was just one polymer square, the darker
Right.
surface. And so we wanted to encourage folks how easy it is to fold. It just folds on itself, right?
Yeah.
And we want those pressure elimination points with the thickness of the towel, right?
Right.
Okay.
The thicker it is, the better. And at the same time, we can feel the contamination as we're taking it off the surface. One spray on the towel, and it's always better to open the sprayer. And one spray on the panel, and where you spray it on the panel is where you deposit the towel. And then no pressure whatsoever.
Ivan, was that a little too violent to put that towel in the paint like that? I mean, this is a Subaru. I don't want you to mess with a Subaru paint. I've got a Subaru Legacy at home, and we got to respect, a high-end car when we see one.
It sounded violent, but it wasn't. It's just the sheet metal that resonates on this car.
In all seriousness, when you clay a car, folks expect to polish afterwards. Is that what we're doing here? We're claying?
Actually, we're decontaminating. There's a difference between clay, which is an abrasive, and a synthetic decontamination towel, which isn't an abrasive. And remember, we're using it on a surface that's already cleaned and already lubricated with the rinseless wash.
Oh, so we've got the lubrication of the rinseless and then the ceramic sealant here.
Right. Now, if you're working outside, you'll do this one panel at a time. Basically, you don't want the NV ceramic sealant to dry on the surface, because if it does, you're not going to have a good day.
And why aren't we doing this one panel at a time?
Well, we will. I'm just going to get the windshield here, and then I'll dry my front end off.
I love using the quad fold towel on windshields. I say it in almost every video, but if you have bug guts, stubborn bug guts on there, you don't even need to put any pressure on this towel on the glass, and it will just shave those bug guts off. And if I'm worried, like, where did that chunk of bug gut go? Usually the decontamination process, what we're plucking off the paint is microscopic.
Right.
But if it was a chunk of bug gut, look how close my wash bucket was to me. I want it to be near me. This is my rinseless wash bucket. I'm just gonna dunk it back in there, make sure it's all nice and clean. Same thing goes for after you've used one side. 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, right? That would be 1 side per panel. After 4 panels, just redunk it in your wash bucket and keep going. This doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be hard. It does have to be fun. So make sure you're making it fun, whatever that looks like for you. Obviously do whatever you want, but I sure as heck enjoy detailing a lot more when it's fun. Okay, I've got my big drying blanket, but you're encouraging me, no, you've got your, okay.
Yeah, to each his own.
Talk about towel choice in auto detailing.
It's a personal thing. There's no right or wrong towel choice here. I like these little twist loop towels. They're a lot of fun to use. They're a nice, handy, convenient size. And they're lightweight. You like that big Instagram pull, as we call it.
Yeah, I just like having a lot of towel. I always like having a little extra. When I go on trips, I pack a little bit more.
Yep.
When I make a purchase, maybe I get the slightly nicer one than I need. It's just my personality style, I suppose, Ivan. I could work with it. I'm working on it. But I like the drying blanket, and you're more economical. You like the 2 twist loops in your hand, especially with rinseless. I feel like there's less that we're contending with. Is that a real thing?
Yep. And you know, I use this as a, thank you. Perfect timing there, Nick.
Yeah, there you go.
They use one almost as a squeegee to get the majority of the liquid off, and then the other one to buff dry.
Sounds like a sound strategy. 1 spray of NB ceramic sealant on the towel, 1 on the panel. Put the towel where I spray on the panel, and just work it till I don't hear or feel any of that roughness anymore.
Right, and the upper surfaces of this vehicle were definitely feeling rough and sounding rough.
Doesn't take long though.
No, couple passes.
Now I'm respraying as if the second half of the roof is another panel.
Yep.
Necessary, unnecessary. I mean, I feel like I'm gonna answer it for myself and then you go ahead. If in doubt, it's never a bad idea to be a little extra cautious.
Perfect answer.
Yep. It's nice to know the rules and follow them, and then when you've done this long enough, if you want to break them, do it at your own risk. Usually by that point, maybe you know how to get away with it or save yourself if you get into a pickle, Ivan. You want to talk about like just what experience can provide you and whether you should follow everything Ivan says to a T or do it your own way?
Well, experience is the best teacher, Nick. And that is something that we only gain through experience, unfortunately. So yes, we can show you every method, and that's why this channel is here. We're trying to show you how to do things safely, easily, and making sure that you're not making any big errors.
As we're going, I'm trying to remind myself what I've done. I'm trying to be methodical. WWYD, what would Ivan do? No, it's just, it's actually better. I enjoy it more when I'm not wasting my time doing things twice.
Right.
So I did the roof, I did the glass. I'm gonna get that done. Kind of like working top to bottom sometimes. Sometimes with polishing jobs like earlier today, I just worked section by section and I noticed you were working top to bottom and I didn't mind doing either way. I was like, well, I'm done with this section, top to bottom, I'm good. Sometimes Ivan will go all uppers and then get on the LaCroix Cruiser and roll around on the lowers. I suppose as long as you have a system and you follow it, if it works for you, right?
Correct. There's no right way to detail. Might be a few questionable ways, but there's no really right way to detail.
Make sure I'm boxing the corner of the windows and then filling it in with my drying towel. And it's a little humid in the shop, so I'll give it another swipe there. And I'm probably gonna let all this air dry and touch it up at the end if it didn't dry on its own, Ivan.
Right.
Speaking of drying on its own though, a couple panels here looking a little dry, I might actually introduce some more rinseless on the surface. What were you gonna say?
Well, it's not a bad thing to let that last little bit air dry. The towel does a good thing. And with the NV ceramic sealant and the rinseless on the surface, it is going to dry streak-free.
Sweet. So we'll just let that happen. But yeah, I had a little bit drier panel here than I wanted. So I introduced a little more rinseless. Again, no pressure, leveraging lubrication, leveraging everything in my arsenal to keep this safe, right? Because it's easy to scratch paint when you don't use proper techniques and you get sloppy. If you do it all the right way, you're minimizing any risk. Of course, Ivan, cars never get scratched on their own in the wild, right? They always stay perfect.
Yeah, 100% Nick. You know, washing doesn't scratch cars, taking them through car wash doesn't scratch them, driving down the highway, scraping the snow off in the winter definitely doesn't scratch cars. So.
How about snow just melting on its own and falling off of your paint? Like, what I'm saying, being sarcastic, is like, your car's gonna get marring and scratching just by being out on the roads. We try to minimize that as much as we can in the way that we actually maintain these, but it's important for folks to be realistic and not freak out when they see little things on their paint, because whether you try or you don't try, somehow the scratching happens. We're trying to mitigate against that, right?
Yeah, we do our best to teach ways that are safe, that are easy, that are economical, and get you results.
And we've done this many times where we'll show you the paint after using the decontamination towel and it does not mar.
No.
So I'm not saying like, oh, don't worry, it's gonna get scratched, so we're just sloppily doing it ourselves. No, this does not scratch paint, but you could dial in this vehicle, polish it to absolute perfection, which doesn't exist, but it could be pretty close.
Yeah.
And then as a detailer, I'd seen it, like, whether they took it through the scratch pass, the car wash or not, there would just be marring on the paint. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I spent 40 hours polishing this paint. How did it get like this? It just happens.
Yeah.
So manage your expectations of what car paint should look like, and you'll just have more fun. You'll worry less.
You want it to look great. We all do. You want it to feel great. You want it to be slick. And that's what we've accomplished here.
Totally. I don't want to get like downer on everybody. I just want to be realistic. Like,
yeah.
Because when you start, you're like, I'm going to make this paint perfect, and then I'm going to wash perfectly, and my paint will stay perfect forever.
Right. And then life happens.
Life does happen. Especially kids. Have you ever tried having kids and having perfect paint?
It doesn't exist.
No.
That's why, tip from a grandparent. When taking the grandkids out, use their parents' car. Let your car be the parents' car while you have their kids. That way their kids making the mess in the back seat stays in their car, not yours. And then there's also, at that point, no child seats being moved in and out of cars, et cetera, et cetera. So the kids stay with their own car.
I even feel weird because on my 2017 Subaru Legacy, I was like, don't touch the paint, kids. And then I'm like,
huh?
What could they possibly do? Like, you know, if they're leaning up against the car, if they're like putting their hands up against the paint, it's like, I'm trying to teach them proper stuff, but then they can see the vehicle as well as I can, and well, there's dents and dings and things just happen, Ivan.
Right.
But we try, as car enthusiasts, as lovers of paint, to keep the legacy alive with our children.
Yeah.
To maintain their vehicle surfaces as well as they can.
Right, and you know, our youngest daughter is 39, and she's really into making sure her car looks good, but she's also one that will put a bag on the trunk and things like that. So yeah, life happens.
It's the real world. What are you up to over there?
Well, I'm just getting those last little pesky drips.
Okay.
And I'm gonna use Ceramic Envy on the wheels. I know we didn't wash them. The dealership washed them the day before we got the car here. The wheels are clean, but I just got a bit of Rinseless on the surface, so I'm gonna use a couple sprays of Ceramic Envy to dry that Rinseless off, providing lubrication. At the same time, brighten up these wheels just a little bit more.
Ivan loves complicated wheel faces. Like the more spokes, the better.
Oh yeah, 100%. Talking about being sarcastic, that was extremely sarcastic.
I mean, they look cool when they're clean.
Yeah, but they're not cool to clean.
They just happen to be hard to clean. But these do look good. They look very good. Alright.
The Envy Ceramic Sealant, of course, a spectacular drying aid.
How many sprays did you do? I just did 5 sprays on this wheel.
That's 3 more than I did.
3 more than you did. That sounds about right.
Yeah. For me, the wipe off is super easy. For Nick, he might be working a little harder than I am.
Well, I'm gonna give this Subaru the respect it deserves, Ivan. I actually do like this paint color. It's different.
Yeah, it is a nice color.
It gives a base model, you know, Impreza kind of a little bit of a sporty vibe.
Yeah, and you know, for me, I'm a little older than you are. This reminds me of a muscle car color from the 60s.
I was gonna say it kind of gave me WRX feeling, but what muscle car?
We'll let the people answer that below. What's the name that I'm associating with this? It's a Ford name. It starts with a G. Of course, a bit of ceramic envy in the door jambs.
I was gonna ask you what your favorite door jam drying aid product is.
Ceramic envy, actually, because what it does, not only does it aid in drying and cleaning, but at the same time, it's leaving protection. That protection makes the cleaning of the door jambs next time that much easier.
Yeah, they're gonna see water beads on their door jambs and wonder what's going on.
Well, it's more the dust doesn't stick as much. Now, another thing, Nick, that I like ceramic envy for, which is sort of out of the box, is that huge nav screen in the middle there, the infotainment screen, the tablet, whatever you want to call it.
To kind of protect it or clean it?
Both. So just a few little sprays on the towel, get those fingerprints off of there, and the next time the fingerprints will be much, much easier to wipe off. Flip the towel to the dry side, dry it off, and there we go. Now I like the fact that it still has a volume button and a tuning button. That is great. There we go. See how nice that is?
Looks great. You could even grab that little smudge on the rearview mirror.
Yeah. Now you don't want to do interior glass with Envy ceramic sealant because you don't want anything hydrophobic on the windows, on the inside. There we go.
You can get away with it on the rearview mirror, right?
Yeah.
But not on the windshield by any means.
No, it's hard to get him out of a Subaru. Once he gets in there, he's just stuck in there.
I know Subarus aren't cool, but if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, you know I've got 180,000 miles on my Subaru legacy.
Yeah.
It's gotten me through so many chapters of my life, including when I was a mobile detailer just starting out
Right.
in 2017. They're great in the snow. They're safe, great for families. So wanted to give this baby the love it so deserves.
And speaking of Subarus, I think there's another one we had on our channel that was almost this color blue, but had a little more power than this one.
Check that video out. It's right here.